One person who was always anti-Diddy and was always speaking about Diddy as a problematic person was 50 Cent.
He would do a lot of foul shit. Like behind the scenes, he would do some foul shit. Like,
But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
Puffy was playing with your booty in Miami.
50 Cent walked into that courtroom holding evidence no one expected. And the moment he began talking about Diddy, even the judge stopped writing and simply listened. What 50 revealed next made Diddy's lawyer ask for an immediate break. Not because the claims sounded wild, but because they were supported by dates, names, and specific details that only someone from Diddy's closest circle could have known. This wasn't just another rap feud. This was the moment when everything changed.
Did he do it, right?
Yeah.
You've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually. But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the celebrity culture that you don't understand anything is because they participated.
Was there a reason you never went to those parties back in the day?
I'm just not with all that freaky shit. Like all of the stuff that he's doing, I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm just a little more, maybe you could say basic.
What's happening with Puffy? I know you're not really tapped in, but what is it?
The last thing I saw was like a guy there. He was like, yo, he like pushed me into the truck. It really hurt. And he sounded me. I was like, yo, look, I could find other things to do for money.
And it turns out that it's just been announced that he's created a docu-series on Netflix. I can't wait to see this. The other end of that, every person who has tried to speak out about this, who has tried to speak out about the industry, the type of people that are controlling the industry, the attacks that people face from the media if they try to speak out, is always the same. They're called crazy. And an example of one such individual who went through those sorts of attacks is the actor Orlando Brown. He was on Disney, and I remember everyone telling us that he was totally insane and deranged when he was saying a lot of things that at the time sounded crazy, particularly about Diddy. Take a listen.
The requirement is you gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
You can take the, but he wants you.
Diddy, to me, is the fall guy. Are still seeing a major effort to protect the big names, just like with Jeffrey Epstein.
Most people thought 50 Cent and Diddy were just caught up in the usual rap drama, two rich guys throwing shade to grab attention. But this court appearance revealed the truth. This wasn't just about music or money. It was personal. And 50 had been planning this move for years. The tension between them goes back almost 20 years. When 50 first came up in the early 2000s, he wasn't just going after Ja Rule, he was quietly keeping an eye on Diddy too. Those small remarks in interviews about Diddy's parties, the jokes about him dancing in videos, they weren't random. 50 was testing the limits, seeing how far he could go. By 2006, he stopped holding back and began openly criticizing Diddy, especially for how he treated artists on Bad Boy Records. And he often brought up the Biggie situation, asking things like, how do you profit off your friend's death? Like, that? Diddy always tried to act unbothered, brushing it off as jealousy, but those close to both men knew it ran much deeper. What no one knew was that 50 had been keeping records the entire time. Every party where Diddy showed up, every industry event, every talk with someone who had worked with Diddy, 50 was gathering details, and it wasn't just social media trash. Talk. Those Instagram jokes about Diddy's legal troubles were actually clues that led to this exact courtroom moment. Last year, when the first accusations against Diddy made headlines, 50 didn't just poke fun online, he started making serious moves. Insiders say he held private meetings with at least 3 former Bad Boy executives, sometimes in hotel conference rooms, sometimes late at night in his mansion in Connecticut. And one source even confirmed he spent 6 hours with someone who used to manage Diddy's personal schedule in the 2010s. When Diddy's legal problems escalated this spring, 50 saw his opening, and suddenly his social media posts shifted from being just jokes to being sharply specific. He was referencing parties from 2014, private jet rides, even certain hotel rooms, and people began to wonder how he knew so much. On the day of the court hearing, 50 showed up completely different. No flashy chains, no crew, just a navy suit, a calm look on his face, and a thick folder under his arm. And according to reporters, he greeted everyone in the room, except Diddy. Diddy, as always, walked in with that familiar confidence, smiling, whispering to his lawyers, acting like nothing could touch him. But that all changed when 50 Cent was called to speak. The court stenographer noted that for the first full minute, 50 didn't even glance at his notes. He just stared straight at Diddy and began speaking. And that's when it happened. Diddy's whole expression shifted, his smile vanished, his eyes went wide, and he clutched his lawyer's arm so tightly that the lawyer had to pull away. It wasn't just surprise, it was recognition. The look of someone who suddenly realizes that another person knows things only his closest allies should ever know. But the real shock hit when 50 finally opened his mouth, and the first words he spoke brought total silence to the room.
She was not offended by what I was offended by.
Wow, they found Kendrick and Wifey.
That's obviously doing shopping. They got the same outfit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a nice shirt. That was a nice shirt. All right, so when he said the shopping line in real life, what did you say?
I said, let me get away from him. Because it was like, he was like, yo, you hot now we gotta hang out now. Like, hang out.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know, man, I'll take you shopping and I could just flash and you could give me the hood shit. And I was looking and I was like, let me just move away from him because I'm gonna mess up the wedding. I always say to myself, because
it was someone's wedding?
It was Chris Lighty's wedding. It was in Miami. Nori's there. Nori knows this. Because I looked at him like, yo.
The story.
Tell him the story. So we talking about rumors, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And we, when you Google his name, there's a rumor that pops up that he was Diddy's boy toy,
Oh, shit.
right?
Wait, so this is...
So Charlamagne said...
It's not true, but I told
It's
after
not true.
he brought up this stuff with you, I said, you know what 50 gonna say when he meets you?
Oh, no, I don't know that was going on.
You know
I can't wait to run into him again.
what you gonna say to him?
Puffy was playing with your booty in Miami.
You know what 50 gonna say to you when he sees you. I heard Diddy touch the butt.
Yeah. Wait till I see him. Wait till I see him. I'm like, yo. Yeah.
The court clerk had just finished swearing in 50 Cent when the room went completely quiet. Not the usual courtroom silence, but the kind where everyone holds their breath at once, and you could even hear the air conditioner humming in the background. 50 adjusted his tie, looked straight at the judge, and began speaking in a voice so calm it felt almost chilling, saying, I want to start with July 14th, 2012, and the way he said that date was so specific that 3 reporters immediately started typing frantically, and even the court reporters' fingers froze for a second because nobody expected 50 to come armed with exact dates. On that date, he said, at the Four Seasons in Miami, room 1412, Mr. Combs held what was labeled a business meeting. But according to 50, it was actually a cover for activities that broke federal trafficking laws. And that's when a gasp spread across the courtroom as Diddy's lead attorney dropped his pen. Not just because of what 50 said, but the way he delivered it, like he was reading straight from Diddy's private calendar. 50 didn't slow down. He laid out a timeline that spanned 8 years, including October 2013, when he described a yacht party off the coast of Saint-Tropez where guests were allegedly misled about the real purpose of the gathering, and March 2016, when he claimed that Diddy used a private estate in the Hamptons to conduct business negotiations involving illegal pressure tactics. He continued with December 2019, pointing to a compound in Turks and Caicos where several witnesses reportedly saw Diddy engage in behavior that would be criminal in all 50 states. These weren't just wild claims. 50 backed them up by referencing text messages between Diddy and his associates, detailing specific email threads with timestamps, and even describing conversations that might have been secretly recorded, though it wasn't clear yet if they were legally obtained. The judge kept glancing at the clerks, as if silently asking, are you getting all this? And halfway through, 50 announced, I have 16 witnesses ready to testify under oath about every single thing I'm saying today. When the judge tried to cut him off and said, Mr. Jackson, please stick to answering the questions asked, 50 responded calmly, I'm establishing material facts relevant to the plaintiff's pattern of racketeering activity, Your Honor, using legal terms that made Diddy's legal team exchange nervous looks. Diddy's lead lawyer tried to object 4 separate times, yelling speculation at one point and hearsay at another, but 50 kept replying with statements like, this isn't hearsay, I personally witnessed it or have the documents to prove it, showing a level of legal understanding that shocked the entire room. The most intense moment came when 50 said, on September 23, 2017, at the Ammon Resort in Turks and Caicos, inside the private villa called Serenity, Mr. Combs hosted an event where he broke Section 1591 of Title 18 of the United States Code, which is the federal sex trafficking law, and that's when 2 federal agents sitting in the back started taking notes immediately. 50 then named 3 specific guests who were present, including one A-list celebrity who had never been publicly tied to Diddy before, and he wrapped up by listing luxury hotels in Dubai, Tokyo, and Paris, including exact room numbers and dates, as well as private islands in the Caribbean where staff allegedly witnessed everything, giving precise times, locations, and activities that pointed to violations not just of state laws, but of serious federal crimes that come with long prison sentences.
Do a lot of foul shit. Like behind the scenes, he would do some foul shit, like hating on, like doing things with people I done business with that he done business with. He would say shit that I was like, he said that to you?
Right.
I was like, yes, all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and niggas don't know what they like till they see somebody with it. So they want the girls after you're done with them and shit.
Yeah. Leftovers.
Yeah.
You take your leftovers. A lot of niggas have more leftovers.
How much is this guy trying to get?
I don't know. Like, it's a simple suit situation, but it's like,
It's 20 mil, I can say
You
it.
still had the blackest face out. You
Yes.
still had to mimic his
Son,
voice because he's like,
But his
damn.
voice wasn't even that different.
and that little deep well, I was like, almost like, no, that's you, young buck.
Yo,
Almost felt like it was I almost knew who it was. You know what I mean? I was like, nah.
The real shock came right after 50 finished his testimony, when without any warning, he reached for the folder he had brought with him, and Diddy's lawyer immediately stood up, saying, "Your Honor, we haven't been given any documents like this in discovery," to which the judge frowned, clearly surprised, but 50 quickly replied, "Your Honor, these aren't part of discovery because they're included in my personal testimony as a witness," sounding like someone who had rehearsed this with legal experts beforehand, then calmly added, "I'm presenting them now as exhibits mentioned in my sworn statement." And after a brief pause, the judge said, "I'll allow you to present them, but the defense may object to specific items." And that's when Diddy's entire legal team leaned in together, whispering urgently because they knew something serious was about to unfold. The first piece of evidence 50 pulled out looked like a stack of phone records, which he identified as text message logs between Mr. Combs and 3 people currently named in the federal case in Los Angeles. And as he handed them to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge, 2 of Diddy's lawyers rushed to look at them at the same time and accidentally bumped heads in their panic. Ma 50 then explained, "I got these legally through a third party who was included in the group chats." Diddy's lawyer jumped up, shouting, "That's not possible. Those are protected communications." But the judge carefully reviewed the papers, her eyebrows lifting higher with every page. And then came something that caused the spectators to lose control: photographs. Court security had to quiet the room, and the judge even threatened to clear it out because things were getting loud. And according to someone who saw the photos, they showed Diddy at the exact locations 50 had just named, with matching timestamps. And 50 explained, "These came from public social media accounts that were only deleted last year. I saved copies because I knew they might become important." But what really stirred the courtroom were the financial documents 50 presented next. He brought what looked like real bank statements, showing large amounts of money moving between strange-sounding companies, and he broke them down like he was giving a lecture, saying, "This company here, Starlight Ventures LLC, sent exactly $2.3 million to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands on the exact date I mentioned earlier during that party." And even the judge seemed impressed with his knowledge, asking, "Mr. Jackson, did you get professional help reviewing these financial records?" And 50 nodded and replied, "Yes, Your Honor. I had forensic accountants go through everything. I'm presenting today." That's when Diddy's lawyer stood up and demanded a break, saying, "Your Honor, we need time to review these materials before Mr. Jackson continues." And the judge agreed, calling for a 30-minute recess. But 50 wasn't finished. He looked at the judge and said, "Your Honor, I've saved the most important evidence for last. After the break, I'd like to present digital communications between Mr. Combs and individuals who are currently testifying in 3 different federal cases." And that was the moment everything shifted, because that final batch of evidence reportedly included real messages between Diddy and people connected to other major celebrity investigations, along with a detailed map of suspicious financial transfers through a maze of fake companies, all tracing back to events where witnesses said illegal activities had happened, and the prosecution couldn't stop smiling, knowing they had just landed their biggest advantage yet.
You heard what he just said, right? He's like, yo, certain things they let it go by because it's fluff. Like they would look, like he would say stuff, and it's like he wasn't like in the closet, he was like in the hallway. Now you see so much shit that you go away. No, this was visible.
He was in the hallway. We saw the video.
We saw that video. It comes out later. You're like, that's not the closet. That's the hallway. He didn't get off out. Like you can tell that he was already.
Nah, New York is dope. Because when Fab, he was like, "Yo, Fab, we ain't party." Fab was like, "Nah, we partying tonight."
He's like, no, like, but he didn't party. And I'm like, yo, they let that one go. Like, I had to say something about it later because I was like, oh, it was fair.
The courtroom that day wasn't just packed with legal teams and journalists. Row 3 had Justin Timberlake sitting next to his manager, both wearing expressions that got more uncomfortable by the minute Mary J. Blige was in the back corner sunglasses. On Indoors, Rick Ross showed up too, which, surprise, everyone considering his own past issues, with Diddy, and right behind the prosecution sat Cassie Ventura, whose own case against Diddy had opened this whole floodgate. The celebrity reactions told us everything. We needed to know when 50 first started with basic accusations. Most of them kept poker faces Timberlake, even checked his watch twice like he was, wondering if this was worth his time. But then 50 mentioned that Miami hotel room, and everything changed. Timberlake stopped fidgeting, Mary J. Blige took her sunglasses off. Rick Ross leaned forwards far he was practically out of his seat. One person couldn't hide their nerves. French Montana, he sat 3 rows back from Diddy, supposedly there to show support. But the moment 50 started naming specific parties, French Montana couldn't stop checking his phone. He'd look up at 50, then down at his screen, then back at 50. Again, a courtroom sketch artist told me. Later, he'd never seen someone look so nervous without actually being on trial. Themselves, French kept texting someone frantically, his fingers moving so fast they were practically blurry. Then there was Ashton Kutcher. He defended Diddy publicly just last month in that Variety interview, calling him misunderstood. And a true visionary, Kutcher sat through exactly 27 minutes of 50's testimony before suddenly standing up and walking out. He didn't come back after the break. Either by evening, his social media team had deleted every post mentioning Diddy, the celebrities, who weren't their maid, their feelings known too. Drake posted a cryptic hourglass emoji right as 50's testimony was happening. Rihanna candled a planned appearance at a charity event connected to one of Diddy's foundations just 2 hours after court adjourned. Even Beyoncé's publicist released a statement clarifying that her client hadn't attended any private events hosted by Diddy since 2016 inside the courtroom. The industry executives were having their own meltdown. 2 Def Jam VPs sitting together started, whispering so intensely after 50 mentioned that Hampton's estate that the bailiff had torn them to be quiet. A former bad boy executive near the back just kept shaking his head mouth. How does he know that? Every time 50 dropped another specific detail, you could tell. The celebrity reactions were influencing how everyone perceived 50's claims. When people who actually know Diddy look that worried, it makes the accusations seem more real. The judge noticed it too. She kept glancing at the celebrity section during the most serious allegations, but the most telling reaction came from someone who'd spent years in Diddy's inner circle usher. Raymond was sitting perfectly still throughout most of the testimony. The RB star had defended Diddy for decades, even crediting him for his career start. But when 50 mentioned a specific private yacht party in 2015 off the coast of Ibiza and named exactly who was there and what happened, Usher's composure cracked completely. He gasped, out loud, his hand covering his mouth. Everyone turned to look at him, and in that moment his face said what everyone was thinking. Everything 50 Cent was saying might actually be true.
You being the only one calling this out.
I look like I've been the crazy guy for a long time.
They said that you're a hater. They said
you're crazy. You do this, and now everybody's complaining. My ass is hurting. There's all this shit that's coming.
50, you can't make jokes about it.
No.
The internet might come for you, bro.
All I'm saying
it might come for you.
You see it now. All of these complaints. People were damn. They were raped and pillaged. This was what was going on. Right? And what do I get for the, I went through years of a hater. You're a hater. You want this and that. I'm just watching. Like, I look at things and go, when you see the new lawsuit coming with Jay, the part with Jay, I go, oh, shoot. Like, then I think about it, I go, that had to be there. So when I was saying that he was missing, he just wasn't actively being out there because they was dealing with that.
Wait, do you think there's truth to the Jay thing? There's no way.
Like that. Look, you know what's like if you say, I have this thing where I'm conflicted when it takes you 20 years to remember something that happened to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I go also 10 years, 20 years later, and it comes back. And it's like all of Puff's problems are coming from the ministers touching little boys.
What you mean?
The laws are the way they are because
Because of
the priests.
The priests touching little boys.
Oh.
Here is your rewritten script as a single paragraph with grammar and punctuation corrected, simpler vocabulary, tone and story engagement preserved, and word count nearly unchanged. The legal experts watching from the gallery instantly recognized. This wasn't just some dramatic courtroom scene, it was real evidence of possible criminal activity being shared live. And while most people were glued to the celebrity reactions, 3 former federal prosecutors sitting quietly in the back row were taking notes as fast as they could, because the big question was, why was 50 even allowed to reveal all this in court in the first place, especially since the hearing was originally about a separate business disagreement between him and Diddy. But 50's legal team had smartly filed a motion arguing that Diddy's ongoing illegal behavior had directly affected their business relationship. And the judge allowed his testimony under Rule 404B, which permits witnesses to talk about prior bad acts if they help show a consistent pattern. And that legal strategy was genius because it gave 50 a legally protected space to speak almost freely under oath. His testimony opened up at least 5 serious legal problems for Diddy. First, the financial deals 50 described could lead to money laundering charges. Second, the specific places and dates he mentioned gave prosecutors a clear path to find witnesses. Third, the trafficking laws 50 referenced come with mandatory 10-year prison terms. Fourth, by bringing up other celebrities who supposedly saw what happened, 50 raised the risk of co-conspirator claims. And fifth, the timeline he laid out showed this pattern went far enough back to break through any possible statute of limitations defense. The judge's actions during the hearing said a lot too. When Diddy's attorneys objected to the financial records, she overruled them 3 times in a row, and legal analysts say judges only allow this type of testimony when they believe it's based on actual facts. So if she thought 50 was making things up, she would have stopped it immediately. 2 assistant U.S. attorneys from the Southern District of New York were also seen in the courtroom, and they weren't there by accident. They were quietly typing notes into their phones every time 50 mentioned financial transactions, and one of them even made a call during the first court break, returning more focused than ever for the afternoon session. 50's testimony seemed carefully planned to activate specific legal responses. By naming dollar amounts above $10,000 in international wire transfers, he hit the thresholds that demand automatic review by financial crime units, and by naming exact hotels in different countries, he gave jurisdiction to multiple law enforcement agencies. This wasn't random. 50 had clearly been coached to say things in a way that would cause maximum legal impact, and the way Diddy's legal team reacted made it obvious what scared them most. They didn't flinch at the party stories or name-dropping, but when 50 brought up shell companies and offshore accounts, Diddy's lead attorney began urgently scribbling notes and passing them to others on the team. The most legally dangerous part came in the final 10 minutes of 50's statement, when he explained in detail how Diddy allegedly moved money through 7 different shell companies between 2018 and 2021, naming each one Platinum Horizons LLC, New Day Ventures, Coastal Sunrise Holdings, and giving exact amounts and dates that perfectly lined up with events where illegal activities supposedly took place. Then came the big reveal. 50 claimed these money transfers were directly connected to 3 active federal cases, including one that had been making national headlines for months, and the way the prosecutors in the room suddenly sat up made it clear. They weren't just taking notes anymore, they were already figuring out their next steps. Since